Two interactions this week got me thinking about how we foster digital innovation in healthcare. First, the Clinical Informatics Fellowship hosted its monthly Leadership Journal Club. We ran into the CMO, Dr. Seth Tumay, in the cafeteria and were lucky enough for him to join us. We discussed a Harvard Business Review article about the classic traps of innovation. Second, I met with the Chief Quality Officer, Will Daniel, and heard about the journey towards excellence that he and his team have led. Both of these discussions remind me of one of my favorite business books, How Stella Saved the Farm. This is a parable about a farm in trouble that teaches practical principles for making innovation happen. Two of the ingredients of success in the quality improvement program here are very important for innovation in any organization. There has to be a massive uplift in understanding of how to achieve performance improvement. Through the efforts of many, many people in the health system, mortality was lowered by 40% and patient experience ratings are now outstanding. This only happens when everyone works together toward the same goals, which is the second ingredient. Innovation happens from the top down and the bottom up. One of the traps in the Harvard Business Review article is when people at the top reject projects that look too small. They end up overlooking things that may ultimately have high impact. At UT Southwestern, there's an annual celebration of excellence. In May's event, 199 teams submitted entries for the Performance Improvement Poster Competition. One of my roles is Chief Learning Health Officer. I'm working on defining what I want that to look like, and advancing the learning health system will require the same change in understanding and culture at the top and bottom as is being demonstrated in the Chief Quality Officer's quest towards excellence. Because most innovation within my sphere of influence will be digital, there are other areas that resonate with me as well. First, you need system-wide structures and processes to facilitate big change. In How Stella Saved the Farm, the business, which is run by the farm animals, was in trouble. So the new CEO, Stella, decided to do something exploratory, alpaca wool. This was effectively starting a new business while still running the established business. At first, she just asked everyone to contribute to the new arm of the business, but that failed miserably. A key lesson for her was that you need people who are immersed in the innovation. They have to be aligned, though, across the organization. And without that proper alignment, there's a high chance that employees will continue to dedicate their attention to their everyday work. So they created an innovation team that was completely separate from those who keep the established business running. That didn't go well either. What you don't want is two separate classes of citizens. The HBR article says, creating two classes of corporate citizens, those who have all the fun, the innovators, and those who must make the money, operations, is a big mistake. What they ultimately figure out is what Gartner calls a bimodal solution. You manage two separate but coherent styles of work, one focused on predictability and the other on exploration. But they need to work closely together. So in informatics, that means that the exploration team is doing more experimenting, pushing the envelope with new technology with the expectation that some things will fail. But there are people from the predictable side of the business on the team as well, guiding them to make sure that what they build will meet security requirements and that they're leveraging existing infrastructure and best practices. On the other hand, people from the exploration team are spending time on the predictable team, understanding the expected workflow of business as usual and the pressures that will face the innovations once they become business as usual. The HBR article suggests promoting mutual learning and integration, and they have some practical suggestions, like having representatives from the mainstream business side rotate through the exploratory group, having advisory boards on both sides, and identifying people who span the two and encouraging them to strengthen connections. Stella learned quickly, though, that when you have a team that's charged with being more exploratory, you can't use the same metrics that you use for business as usual. The article warns against strangling innovation with the same tight planning, budgeting, and reviews, and rewarding people only for doing what they're committed to doing. Stella concludes that innovation is a process of disciplined experimentation. To me, that's the key word for my role as Chief Learning Health Officer. How do we set up an environment that encourages, supports, and evaluates disciplined experimentation? Another phrase for it is rapid cycle learning. Dr. Tumay said, in innovation, you need to fail fast, often, and cheaply. Jeffrey Braithwaite in Sydney, Australia put it this way: complexity science suggests that it's often better to try multiple approaches and let direction arise by gradually shifting time and attention towards those things that seem to be working best. Explore new possibilities through experimentation, autonomy, and working at the edge of knowledge and experience. I'm reaching into the archives of dog pictures today. Our Husky Malamute mix, Gorm, is a great jumper. During COVID, when we were working on our balcony in Melbourne, Gorm took a standing jump onto the tall but very narrow cocktail table and managed to keep his balance and keep us company. I guess that balance is what we need for innovation.